Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2016 Can-Am 500 at Phoenix Race Review, where I recap what went on before the race, during the race, and after the race, looking ahead to the upcoming race. So, overall thoughts on this race? I was actually there at the racetrack, sitting in the grandstands. I had a great time, just like I've had before. And sometime within the next week or two, you'll probably see a video, or basically it'll show my entire experience right there. But as far as the race goes, it's a solid race. I frankly don't expect a whole lot out of Phoenix. I mean, to me, I love the track. It's the track. It's the closest NASCAR track to where I live. I love it for its uniqueness, but frankly, the racing is not that good most of the time, so that's why I don't really expect a whole lot out of it. But it was solid. There were some good battles for the lead. One thing that I did notice was that there were a lot of good cars there. I don't know if NBC showed that because often TV networks only give you a very limited version of what's going on in the race. That's just my opinion. I definitely saw a lot of cars sliding, sitting in the grandstands, but then late in the race, it took a very dramatic turn. Chase implications took place, and I'll talk about that later on. And now definitely, and I feel like for the first time in the chase, we now have a race that many are going to be talking about for the next few days leading up to the season finale at Homestead next Sunday. A couple of big storylines came out between Texas and Phoenix. One of those was that some people at Texas Motor Speedway say that the track could be repaved next year, and one of the biggest reasons, and the main reason for that is because even though many drivers and fans love racing at an old abrasive surface, they think that it should not take 5 to 6 hours to dry a racetrack, when there's rain, and that certainly affected both Texas races this year, also the IndyCar race, and they put the blame on the old surface, and I understand that, and so to speed up track drying, that's why the track will likely be repaved at least sometime within the next few years. Matt DiBiase passed the concussion protocol and did race in Phoenix after not racing last Sunday at Texas. And I think the most shocking storyline of them all was that Brian Scott will retire from full-time racing after this year. Why exactly? It is because he wants to spend more time with his family, and that's something I can understand, and I respect that. Brian Scott, 2 Truck Series wins. He ran 5 full-time Xfinity Series seasons, I believe, maybe 6. And there were a handful of times where he came close to winning. Sprint Cup Series. This was his rookie year, and basically was the wrecking ball of the season. Unfortunately, and Brad Scott, he's actually been racing for about as long as I've been watching NASCAR, so dating back to 2007, and I will miss Brian Scott. He was one of those underdogs that they would want to see do well, in my opinion. And final big storyline was that Monster Energy was announced as a finalist for next year's title sponsor or Sprint's replacement. And so next year it could be the Monster Cup Series or the Monster Energy Cup Series. I think it sounds good. Okay, let's get to other news. Kyle Larson, fastest in first practice. Then the Arizona native Alex Bowman won his first career Sprint Cup Series pole. Martin Truex Jr. was the fastest in the second practice, and Kyle Busch was fastest in happy hour. 2 drivers received odd penalties, and I guess you could also say controversial penalties in this race. One of those was Jimmie Johnson. The other was Martin Truex Jr. Jimmie Johnson had already had clinched his spot into the Final Four with his win in Martinsville 2 weeks ago. Martin Truex Jr. was eliminated after the last round, and basically both not at the same time but at different points in the race violated a rule, or basically under caution, drivers must maintain their speed in relation to the vehicles coming to them. And basically, I guess what happened was that Jimmy Johnson, who had just taken the lead at caution, came out, and then everyone came down pit road. And then I guess what happened was that Jimmy Johnson sped up and actually beat the pace car as he entered the pits and got penalized. He got held one lap, and then was the start of a rough day. He would later make contact with Austin Dillon on restart, but bust a hole in his radiator, and he would get a poor finish. Martin Truex Jr., who I believe got penalized or did get penalized for the same thing, would then get stuck back in traffic, and he would get involved in a crash with Ryan Newman. But what makes it so controversial, and I can't show any pictures on the screen, but basically what Johnson did and what Jimmy Johnson did was not really that different compared to what our drivers did. And even Jimmy Johnson said himself that, he felt like that it was not different compared to all the other times he was racing. I mean, to me, I saw pictures that showed Matt Kenseth at Kansas about a month ago. He basically did the same thing to get penalized. In the spring race, Carl Edwards also did the same thing and didn't get penalized. So, frankly, inconsistency once again. And I gotta say this, NASCAR. Next week is one of, if not the biggest race, is one of the biggest races of the year. We're deciding a champion. Please get your officiating together, because I don't think anyone wants to see a driver's title hopes get decided by the officials. What I'm about to show you is a replay, and basically dissecting what happened in basically, well, what ended up being, I think, the moment that many are going to be talking about leading up to Homestead, because this had major championship implications. So a caution came out with coming to 2 laps to go when Michael McDowell hit the wall very hard in the dog leg and then spun in turn 3, and this put us into overtime. Matt Kenseth was the leader of the race, and he picked the outside. Alex Bowman to the inside. I already mentioned said that he won the pole, and had a very dominant car. Led 194 laps. He was on the inside. And in third place was Kyle Busch, who at the time was not in the final 4. He was a couple points out of it, and Joe Logano held on to the final to that final spot. Okay, so let's go through this restart. So I'll just show it to you right here and not say anything. And that is basically what happened. The leader, Matt Kenseth, gets spun and backs it into the wall, and that pretty much not only ends his chances of winning the race, but also his title hopes. He did not win one of the 2 prior races, and frankly, he didn't need to win the race. I mean, he could have still finished second and still made it in by like a handful of points. Okay, so what happened here? Well, I'm gonna skip along here. Okay, so here is a replay, and this is my interpretation of what happened in the crash. To me, this was just a racing deal. You had Matt Kenseth wanting to win. You had Alex Bowman not only trying to get his first career win, but Alex Bowman doesn't have a ride for next year, so he's basically racing for his job. You have Kyle Busch, who basically needs to pass as many cars as he can so he can make it into the final 4, so he's going to be aggressive. And so basically what happens here is that Alex Bowman does not get that good of a restart, and then defends Kyle Busch, because Alex Bowman knows that if he gets sandwiched, his chances of winning the race are over. And so he goes to block Kyle Busch. And the thing is, it messes up his line going into turn 1 here. But as you see here, I'm going to pause right here. Notice how Matt Kenseth started coming down the racetrack, and then that led to the 88 and 20 making contact. And so Matt Kenseth, his spotter, I don't remember his name. I want to say it's like Chris Osborne. I want to say he told Matt Kenseth that Matt was clear, but the thing is, Chris Osborne just simply made a mistake and and it ended up costing the 20 team the championship. So, like I said, it was a racing deal. I don't think that anyone is really at blame for this crash. It just I did feel bad for Matt Kenseth though, and that moment right there kind of or it does summarize Matt Kenseth's season. Fast cars that could have won lots of races, but something happens to him that was mostly or completely out of his control. Ends up costing him a chance to win the race. And because of this wreck, that's why Matt Kenseth is not in the Final Four. Phoenix was the final elimination race in the chase, and so now we know our championship four, or Final Four, as many like to call them. Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano. Johnson and Edwards because of the wins at Martinsville and Phoenix. Joey Logano was the winner of this race. He took advantage of what happened on the first overtime attempt. Kyle Busch made it in on points. And I gotta say, this is a pretty competitive Final Four. All four of these drivers have had pretty good seasons, and frankly, there's not really a clear favorite in this year's chase compared to the past few chase seasons. And the final race of the season is at Homestead, a 1.5 mile track, but it's not like the other 1.5 mile tracks. It's not a D-shaped oval, it's not a quad oval. Its surface is abrasive, so we're going to see a lot of drivers fighting their cars. Tire wear is going to be big. And so having the title at Homestead is no easy test. But if you look at the drivers entering in Homestead, I'll start with Jimmy Johnson. He's never won at Homestead before, and I think that's one reason why even though I am a Jimmy Johnson fan, I'm not completely confident that he will win the championship. Carl Edwards, he's won at Homestead twice. And so he knows how to win here. And the reason why I think winning is so important is because we saw how Kevin Harvick, he won the race. He won the season finale race 2 years ago. Went on to win the championship. Kyle Busch won Homestead last year. Went on to win the championship. So I think you need to win Homestead in order to win the championship. And speaking of Kyle Busch, last year's champion, if he can win the championship this year, he will become, I believe, one of only a handful of drivers to win back-to-back championships. And then Joey Logano. I think Logano is entering the Final Four with the most momentum out of these four drivers. Won at Talladega weeks ago, dominated the race at Texas, finished second, and has now won at Phoenix. Also the storylines. Jimmy Johnson looking to tie NASCAR legends Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. for most championships. Johnson has 6, looking to get 7. Carl Edwards, he's come close to winning the title in 2005, 2008, 2011, but was not able to close the deal. 2011, I'm sure many of you can remember, he lost in a tiebreaker with Tony Stewart because he had less wins. Kyle Busch, defending champion. And then Joey Logano, if he can win the championship this year, he will become one of the youngest champions ever in the Sprint Cup Series. So I mean, I think we have some good storylines among all four of these drivers. And if you look at all their wins combined, a total of 15 wins out of 35 races completed. Okay, let's wrap things up. And actually, one thing I should have included in the last segment was who got eliminated. Those 4 drivers that got eliminated were Matt Kenseth, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Kurt Busch. Out of those 4, most notably Kevin Harvick, the first time he's ever been eliminated since NASCAR went to the elimination chase format. And frankly, I think that even though he finished fourth, it was definitely his worst performance overall at Phoenix since moving to Stewart Haas Racing. Anyway, now that I have that out of the way, let's wrap things up and look at Homestead. It's a Homestead big race. We'll know who the champion is in 1 week from now. It's also Tony Stewart and Brian Scott's final races, and hopefully Homestead's a good race. I already mentioned that the Homestead, it has an abrasive surface. It's multiple grooves. I think it's one of the best mountain half tracks there is. So I think we will be in for a good race. But it is important to know that even though a lot of attention is going to be focused on Johnson, Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards, and Joe Logano, there are still going to be 36 drivers that are going to be out there, and many of them are going to want to win. When I look at the non-chasers, the one driver that I think is a favorite is Kyle Larson. He's been good at Homestead and pretty much any type of NASCAR vehicle he's been in, whether it's a truck, an Xfinity car, or a car. So I would say look out for Kyle Larson. But really, looking at this race, it's actually made me reflect on the season, and really all I can think about is, wow, this year has really gone by fast. It didn't feel like it was that long ago. The cars were rolling off for sprint unlimited practice. Time sure does fly by fast. And I think that in a week from now, when the season is officially over, I think we'll all look back on how good of a season this was, and all of the good memories that we made, because there were a lot of good memories. I could talk about some of them, but I don't want to waste any more time. Thank you all for watching this race review. Thank you for supporting it. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and bye.